Hi, everybody. Tom Salemi here. Welcome back to the Device Talks weekly podcast. We're going to be focusing on surgical robotics this week. I spoke with two principals from Ronovo Surgical, which is a well-funded surgical robotics company based in China. Their system, the Carina system, has a very cool modular design, and they'll be going after the minimally invasive surgery market in China. And then, of course, beyond that, they're concentrating their efforts on China right now, but they're also looking OUS. And we'll talk a little bit about how they're planning to do that, whether there might be some interest in partnering further down the road. So I spoke with John Ma. He is founder, chairman, and CEO, in Ying. He is co-founder, COO, and CTO of the company. Both have extensive experience at some of the big companies, including Auris and Intuitive Surgical. So it was really interesting to hear how they're approaching their design and how they think it's a great fit for China's, again, very large market. In addition to that, of course, we'll have our Newmarker's Newsmakers. Chris Newmarker joins us and lets us know of the news of the week. And you can also hear about some car trouble we were having, at least I was having, but things seem to be picked up a little bit. So excuse the dour tone at the start of the podcast, but just keeping it real. Finally, don't forget, join us at Device Talks Boston. That'll take place on May 10th and 11th. You can go to devicetalks.com to register for that. We'd love to see you there. And while you're at devicetalks.com, make sure you check out our upcoming Device Talks Tuesdays this week at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm happy to welcome back our friends from TE Connectivity. They always put on a great show. It's always one of our more well-attended sessions, so you don't want to miss it. This is called How Fine Wire Automation Improves Reliability and Reduces Costs in Medical Device Development. So again, make sure you check out devicetalks.com, check out the Device Talks Tuesdays tab, and register for our upcoming Device Talks Tuesdays. They're free, they're informative. You can watch them live, you can watch them on demand, but don't delay. Make sure you sign up for the upcoming Device Talks Tuesdays. And of course, check out all of our great podcasts, including the Intuitive Talks we just launched this week. And next week on Wednesday, we'll be rolling out our first Boston Scientific Talk. So look forward to bringing you those stories. All right. Without any further delay, let us get this podcast started. All right. You ready for this?
Ready.
Chris Newmarker, how are you, sir?
I am doing well, Tom.
We were just prior to pushing record, talking about our cars and
yes,
there are many needs. So yeah, I think I might have got the big call from our mechanic. We'll see. We'll see if the Kia Rondo can live to drive another day. But anyway,
if they have to put the Kia down, I mean, at least like maybe you can, like maybe it's like they could like do like tire prints on some kind of like ceramic thing for you, or something to keep the keychains.
They told me it was going to go live in a farm. Is it going to go live in a farm, Chris? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah.
Oh, good. There are Kia farms
your
out there.
Beloved old cars go to a farm. Exactly. I mean,
we'll find
goats
out.
love old cars that don't work.
They love
they
to drive
jump
old.
on them. It's
Yeah.
great. It's fun.
It's great.
That's a goat farm.
Excellent.
Maybe we'll get some complimentary cheese from the goat farm. Make some
There
roasted
you go.
Brussels sprouts. It'll be great.
There you go. Goats are adorable, by the way. We have a goat farm nearby, and they're just
Oh
a lot of fun.
yeah. We take the kids to an orchard. Yeah, they're fun. Yeah. I mean, I don't think the town would let me get one though. Like, it's tempting to get a goat to mow the lawn, but I don't.
Yeah, no, I've thought about that. They'll eat anything, poison ivy, the whole bit.
They'll eat poison ivy? That is wow.
Oh yeah, we have a service around here, Goats to Go. They put up a fence around an area where there's poison ivy, and the goats remain in that fenced in area until they eat all the poison ivy, and that's how they get rid of poison
I
ivy.
have luckily not had poison ivy in my landscaping, but if it ever crops up, I'll remember I could get a goat service. It sounds like a
Can certainly do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds better than me putting on gloves and trying to pull it out. That is Doesn't sound
That stuff
pleasant.
is,
No.
my body does not react well to nature. I'm a city
No.
boy. I love my time outdoors, but if I walk by a bit of poison ivy, it's curtains for old
You you
Tom.
and
So, oh, I'm better than I used to
you
be.
and Poison Ivy aren't friends.
Anyway, I don't
Anyway,
know how we went this
I
dark, dark,
know.
weird, mundane
Poison
hole, but here we
Ivy,
are.
we just need spring to get here. I think that's what it's all
We
about.
do.
I'm going to take
We
some
do.
extra vitamin D after this call.
Has your snow melted yet?
Oh no. We must, I think, as much as I don't think our listeners want to hear us like
I think
chatting
they've,
about, they're
if we
just,
have any left, if
please cut this
anybody, if,
down, Tom. Just cut it down.
oh no, I'm going to share all the ugly with our listeners. They're going to know way, way too much about us. But let's roll into the Newmarker's
The
Newsmakers,
Newmarkers, Newsmakers.
which has some cheery news as well as some
Mhm.
less than cheery
Right.
news.
Yeah. So
But why don't we number five? Not so cheery.
not so cheery. I mean, this was if anyone hasn't listened to, last week's podcast about like kind of the fallout from, the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, they really should. I mean, it's just, there's just a lot of good stuff in there, even like good advice for, dealing with, a crisis situation. But, if you want just a quick summary, I wrote an article on Mass Device off of that podcast episode. What could MedTech lose from the Silicon Valley bank shutdown? And I mean, definitely there's a lot of relief. I mean, there's a lot of companies, especially like young medical device companies that, they really dodged something. I mean, they could have, lost a lot of money or like been stuck like without access to a lot of money, billions of dollars. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so
I mean, I think we need to see the other shoe needs to fall. We need to see who's going to buy if anyone's Silicon
yeah,
Valley Bank. They filed for Chapter 11 after we
their
recorded that.
parent
I think I
company did,
mentioned that.
yeah.
Yeah, the parent company did.
FDIC is
Um,
trying to auction off, the bridge bank they created after seizing the bank. But kind of the other side of this is, yeah, I mean, is Silicon Valley Bank in some form going to survive, or could we get, some other institution to come in and kind of play the role they played? Because I think that was kind of the big message, that I have in this article and that we had in the podcast a week ago, is that, beyond just, being a bank for like innovative young, technology medtech companies with VC backing. I mean, it provided a really important role, like providing, advice, like providing, networking, being kind of a cheerleader in some way for these companies, like with the VCs, to get the VCs to
yeah.
provide more investments, so like something, as you had, Pristine Surgical CEO Brian Lord said pretty aptly. Like you said, if there's a hole left, it's going to be a giant loss for the industry. I mean, this bank played an important role. So here's to hoping that it continues on in some way, or that somebody else comes in and steps up and fills this niche, because it definitely feels like the niche was good, just bad risk management.
I think it'll probably take a couple of banks to fill that niche because I don't know if anyone's going to leave themselves to that sort of exposure again. Even if it was pointed out in a podcast I was listening to that even if Silicon Valley Bank may have had all these companies as clients with different accounts in the different companies, but they often shared investors. So if one investor sends out an email to 10 or 20 or 30 portfolio companies, get your money out of there, then they're not
Right.
operating as one client. They're not operating as 30 clients. They're operating as one big client. So will definitely emerge from this with some redundancy, I would imagine, with some other banks hopefully stepping in, although the banking situation still seems to be fluid, we'll say,
Yeah,
for now.
that's a good way to put it. I definitely would say banking is one of those industries where it really needs to be as boring as possible. Boring banking news is good for all of us.
Do you have some good news, Chris Newmarker? Can we just get some good medical technology news, some medical technology that might be positioned to help people? What's number
Oh yeah,
four?
let me see what's, next on the list. This is good news. I've got good news. I've
Yay!
got some, Tom. I'm delivering. Or specifically, our associate editor Sean Hooley is delivering. He spent a day at the Technology and Heart Failure Therapeutics conference in Boston, and like rolled out some coverage out of studies coming out of that. And one of the really interesting pieces of news was a meta-analysis of three randomized controlled trials involving Abbott's CardioMEMS HF system which remotely monitors pulmonary artery pressure, and it found that just because it provides doctors like specific insights into how someone's heart failure is progressing, including like early warnings of worsening heart failure. It found that it reduced mortality risk by 25% at 2 years for,
Amazing.
yeah. I mean, so, that's people not dying. So I mean that was just a really, really strong piece of information, which, yeah, I mean, here's, well, it'll be great to see how this device progresses, because it seems like it's this study out of Abbott is showing that if your goal is to keep people with heart failure from dying, reducing the risk of death, it appears to be a really valuable tool.
Absolutely. And Abbott, of course, CardioMEMS is really scoring some points. That was, just speaking to the innovation economy, that was a privately held company acquired by St. Jude in 2014. And
Yeah,
then, of course, Abbott went on to acquire St. Jude. So it's these smaller companies that can really develop. Larger companies can as well. But as we
exactly.
know, startups can really change the game and advance treatment for
Totally.
patients. So good work by Abbott, good work by St. Jude for acquiring them, and good work for CardioMEMS, and some good news. Thanks for that,
Yeah.
Chris
Hey, I
Newmarker.
got some more.
Nice
I
to
got
have some
some
good
more
news.
THT.
Bring it on me.
So, all
Bring it
right, here
on.
we go. We got like CVRx's
Bring it
their
on.
Barrows.
Not bring it on me. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Bring it on, Chris. So, see,
Sorry. Go ahead.
you're going really Boston there, Tom. So the CVRx is Barostim neuromodulation device, which is it's another heart failure. This is a heart failure treatment. That's the device. This is a neuromodulation device. It delivers electrical pulses to the baroreceptors in the wall of the carotid artery, and this kind of this like helps reduce the symptoms of heart failure. And they released a trial at a THT that Sean wrote about, where it looked at 323 randomized patients, median follow-up 3.6 years later. They along with like 90%, 97% freedom from major adverse neurological or cardiovascular system or procedure-related events. That's great. Good, really good safety. And then it like there were like symptom improvements compared to the control, included like a 44-meter improvement in a 6-minute hall walk at 12 months. Quality of life improved by 10 points. On the Minnesota Living with Heart Failure questionnaire, at the 24-month mark. So, yeah, just a lot, some good evidence, like from a CVRx that, the Barostim Neo is, helping to reduce, symptoms for heart failure patients. So just more good news for, people who are, dealing with this chronic condition.
That's great. No, and it's important that we do focus, all joking aside, on the good news and the good
Yeah.
work that the impact of these technologies. We'll be talking about that at Device Talks Boston. We'll talk to ZimV about Tether. Abbott will be there to talk about HeartMate. Boston Scientific will be talking about LithoVue. So
Yeah.
lots of great technologies
There's
coming.
a lot of exciting things going on,
A
and
lot of exciting things are happening.
and I mean, the last few weeks have definitely been, we've had some, sad news with, some, layoffs going a bit on a big med tech companies, but I'm just sticking with optimism on this, Tom, though. I mean, I just think,
Yep.
I mean, as we were saying even last week, I mean, like people have health conditions and they need to be treated. There's a demand here. I think this industry is in much better shape than a lot of others. And I think what we're just seeing right now is kind of like all these, when I look at all these different factors that are affecting medical device companies, I mean, a lot of them seem to be temporary. I mean, I just
Mhm.
think we're just, going through a patch where companies need to kind of retrench, because you just got all these factors, a lot of them temporary, just kind of hitting them all at once.
Absolutely. So if you are someone who's been impacted by some of the negative news over the past couple of weeks, job-wise, keep the faith.
Keep the faith.
Stick to it. There's a lot of greatness going out there, and we'll get through it.
We will.
All right. What is number 2, Chris Newmarker?
Well, number two on the list, Johnson and Johnson, MedTech's executive vice president, the person in charge of that business, Ashley McAvoy. She is AdvaMed's new chair, starting her two.
Great choice.
Yeah, absolutely. The first woman executive to be chair of the group. So that's
Kind of stunning that.
yeah. I was kind of surprised.
You asked me about that. I'm like, that can't be
I did a
true.
quick interview with her, and when she told me that,
Yeah.
I was visibly surprised. I was like, wow, they haven't had it. But that's great. It's the group was founded in 1974, so it's their first woman chair. They did have Pam Bailey was their
Mhm.
CEO in the early 2000s. So it's not like they've always had men leading the group. So that's good. But like definitely McAvoy. I mean, Johnson MedTech, that's the second largest medical device business in the world. So, I mean, she's one of the most powerful executives in our industry. And, now she's, the voice of our industry for the next 2 years. She has goals. I mean, the group has goals for, the coming years. And, it kind of struck me that some of these goals actually kind of speak a bit to, kind of some of the challenges actually they're working through right now. They've got there's the whole, issue around, health providers, being understaffed, facing all these operational challenges, and then spill over into their ability to, acquire new med tech to help people. And, they're really, AdvaMed's really focused on getting the industry to try to, one of the big goals is build a more resilient healthcare system, seeking policy enhancements and improved supply chain operations. And supply chains have been another huge challenge for the industry. So AdvaMed's, sounds like they're really going to be focusing on trying to, support improvements, in those areas. And then of course they're focused on this digital transformation where, this industry is going through, including making sure that we've got some ethical policies in place around it. And there's the goal to ensure the medtech industry reflects the patients it serves. I mean, making sure they've got diverse representation in the industry, and that and also improving diversity in clinical research. I mean, we've seen some problems with medtech products that the research behind it was too focused frankly on white people, and it didn't I remember the problems with pulse oximeters that have been talked about in recent years. I mean, they weren't as effective with people with darker skin. I mean, you need to so we need to be better at that. But I kind of noted to her, we have our annual study where we look at the leadership pages of all these 100 largest companies, and still only 23% of the executives on those pages are women. This is like a study that our senior editor, Danielle Kirsch, does every year. And, and McAvoy just flat out said, I always say, start with your own house and get your house in order. So,
Mhm.
There's definitely realization we need to do more. The industry needs to be better.
All right. Let us finish this Newmarker's Newsmakers. What is number one on the Newmarker's Newsmakers?
Yeah, big news from Medtronic. Just some really just some good enterprising reporting from our MDO managing editor Jim Hammerand. With Sean so busy at THT, Jim came over and lent us a hand over a mass device, and was just just trying to had a good scoop on how Medtronic is consolidating their surgical robotics and surgical innovations operating units. There wasn't a news release out about it yet, but Jim caught an update on their website, and including mention that the former surgical robotics president Mike Marinero was going to be leading the new group. And so yeah, we I think this is what we've been doing best right now, like a mass device. We're getting the news out first. And
yeah, you guys are killing it. And I think the good news, Medtronic, you published an article. Jim put together an article based upon things he discovered on the website, and then Medtronic came back the next day with some more details, and they
Yes.
said that they're not going to be closing any facilities, so robotics will remain in Connecticut and Colorado, I guess. I guess that would be the surgical part. So I think robotics is in Connecticut, the surgical tool part would be in Colorado. Both those facilities will remain open, so that's good news.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good news. So,
yeah.
And we, we'll just see how things continue to play out at Medtronic. I mean, they were announcing, a few weeks ago that they're in the midst of a significant expense reduction, through the company. No words about, whether, what kind of job, if there are job reductions, what kind, but, here's to hoping that, that wraps up soon. And, it's always tough when you see a large company going through those kinds of expense reductions.
Absolutely. And, it's not isolated to Medtronic. I've talked with
Oh yeah.
executives at most of the major med techs and said no one has said, no, we're fine. We're not going to have layoffs. Seems like everybody's either talking about it or looking inward and trying to figure out how to get through these tougher
Yeah.
economic times. So it's not an isolated, unfortunately, occurrence for Medtronic, or you reported on J&J earlier. I'm sure we'll be hearing more of these, or at least we'll be aware that things are happening. I mean, we do track things on social media. That's where you hear a lot. Obviously, phone calls
Yeah.
with people, you hear that. But you also have established a tip line on Mass Device that if folks want to share, you want to talk a bit about that, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we set up a layoffs tip line on a Mass Device. It should be pretty easy to Google up, and you can. Would you include the link, Tom, with the?
Yes, the link will be in
Thank you, Tom.
in the show notes. I should have noted that.
Appreciate it.
And again, it's not, as we
Yeah,
said before, I don't know, it wasn't last week or the week before.
yeah,
It's not a matter of gotcha or things like that. It just these moments are important in people's lives when they're
yeah.
separated from an employer, and I think there's sort of a bit of closure that comes when it, or at least a part of the process is seeing that others have experienced something similar, and I think it just sort of helps the process. So
I think it helps the process. I think we're providing a valuable service by just giving people across the industry an idea of how
yeah,
this is all playing out. And and frankly too, I think it helps people who are laid off when these layoffs are public, because I mean you don't have to go and apply for a new job and try to explain like, well,
yeah,
why did they let you go, like why did it's just like it's just obvious, like, oh, I was caught up in the big layoff at
yeah. Or
whatever
it may
company,
jar the memory of
and
someone in your network who sees that happen and said, "Oh, let me reach out to so and so and see what she's up to." So
totally. And we've seen that too, even like with our posting off our layoff coverage on LinkedIn. We've seen people who are
yep,
recruiters, people with companies that are hiring, like saying, hey, you got caught up in this layoff. We're looking for, experienced talent from, these companies to, come help us out. So, I mean, there's definitely, I think there, I think I'm really looking forward to not writing about layoffs.
I was going to say I really miss our top fives when they were all cool product news.
But I do feel we're doing some good. I think we're really, delivering some
Absolutely.
value to our audience.
Great job over there at Mass
Yeah.
Device. All right.
Thanks, Tom.
Well, Dr. John Ma and Ying Ma, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'm excited to learn more about Ronovo, and it's emerged and come to my attention recently, and just doing some more research on it. You've got a really unique approach to robotic surgery that can't wait to get into. But we always like to learn a little bit about our guests and how they came to this point before we begin talking about the company. So, John, if you could please explain, how did you find your way into the medical device industry?
Sure. First of all, I received my PhD in material science and engineering almost 30 years ago from the US. And almost for my entirety of my career, I have worked in medtech industry. 20 some years ago, I was the first CTO of GE Healthcare in China.
Oh,
And also worked for the company like Express Scripts, Fosun Groups, and Intuitive Surgical before the company Ronovo Surgical was founded.
has your focus always been in Asia, or have you focused on other parts of the world as well?
I have predominantly worked in APAC region, and but I have taken global assignments as well.
Excellent. And in Ying, how did you find your way into the industry?
I got my PhD degree in the US back in 2012. And then following the years, I've always been working with robotic systems, starting with General Electric, and then a series of startups, including Dreamworld, which I co-founded, primarily focused on augmented reality headsets, and then Auris Health, where I worked with the team on the Ottava system, and then Ronovo Surgical, where I took the primary role on the engineering side, building the Carina system.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's get focused on Ronovo. John, can you please tell me, how did you first enter or begin working in the surgical robotics field? I know you did some work with Intuitive, both at the company and I think at a partner of the company.
Yeah, sure. My connection with surgical robotics dated back for almost 10 years. starting from 2013. It was not by design, as you know that I have predominantly worked in the medtech industry for 20 plus years. 2013, I took the assignment as a senior vice president of Fosun. And Fosun was an exclusive distributor of Intuitive's Da Vinci system in China. And that got my attention. And I was fascinated by what I have discovered early on. China at that time only had roughly about 17 install base. Very few surgeons are performing surgeries using the system. But however, we have consistently heard from KOLs alike and across a number of specialties that their love for the system. And I always believe KOLs. I always believe, good doctors, their instinct in innovative technologies. And when I look deeper into that, and obviously, that started my next 10 years journey of a very close association with surgical robotics. And we grew business substantially from the commercial side and worked with the Intuitive extremely closely and founding the joint venture. Eventually, I took a role as a senior vice president of strategic initiatives with Intuitive. So the 10 years time, my connection with surgical robotics, not only discovering the tremendous potential and what innovation can play a key role in clinical outcome, but also I am very fond of what I learned in the 10 years. In the meantime, however, that we have also discovered tremendous growth opportunities, clinically unmet needs in China. That all, stem from the idea of founding Ronovo Surgical, try to do that.
Interesting. So what is the appeal to the KOLs in China for robotic surgery? What is it that they see as their future?
Yeah, as you know, the starting point is very similar, like in the US. We used to say that you should shoot for the heart, you end up with a prostate. And some 16 years ago, when the first surgery was performed in China, it was a cardiac surgery. That was January of 2007. I think the surgeon was fascinated by what the machine can do in terms of precision, maneuverability, and also minimum invasive. And that's why it all started with the heart. And then when it moved on, and as Intuitive continued to grow and the technology continued to grow, and I think it landed its unique position, with regards to surgeries in small cavities and narrow access type of application. And, that's how it got started, that the KOLs and the famous surgeons find out, the minimally invasive technique robotically performed on patients and really show the strength of operating, in specialties like urology. And that's how it all got started to where it was, today. And predominantly still the system is utilized in specialties like urology in China.
But you saw an opportunity, from what I've read, and I want to get into the founding of Ronovo now, for an alternative in Asia. And you had joined Lilly Asia Ventures. Is that right? As Lisa?
Correct.
And looked for an opportunity to invest in, and you weren't able to find anything, and that led to the founding of Ronovo. Is that correct?
That's correct. Lilly Asia Ventures, more than 3 years ago, was looking for opportunities to grow in surgical robotics. And they were looking for, is there anything beyond Intuitive Surgical's Da Vinci? And can Intuitive Da Vinci satisfy all the needs or most of the needs in China? And that's how we started talking. And I just left the Intuitive Surgical for a while. So that's all at the beginning that we were exploring that what are the alternatives? What are the things that the doctors are still looking for in China and can potentially help them? So let me say that, that the experience with Intuitive was tremendous and the great learning for all people who have been associated with that. But however, after the first robotic surgery was performed in 2017, after 16 years, that if you look at the tremendous space of a minimum invasive surgery, which, China performs like 10 million procedures a year, minimum invasive procedures a year. Only a very tiny fraction of their volume, less than 1%, is performed robotically. And a very large chunk of that, less than 1%, is urology. So when you look at general surgery, when you look at gynecology, each specialty can have like around 5 million procedures a year. And the penetration from robotic technology system, predominantly intuitive, is less than 0.5 or 0.2% respectively. So one would have to wonder, why is that? When on one hand that you have a tremendous high volume of minimally invasive surgery performed in each specialty, but what are the doctors are looking for or not satisfied with the current available system that can offer them in their specialty? So those are the questions we ask ourselves at the beginning. We are at the very forefront of commercializing robotic surgery in China, but those are very deep questions that when you talk to clinicians, they are asking and we are asking, and that's how essentially that Ronovo Surgical was all started in trying to explore, what can we do more beyond the urology, what we can enable the surgeon with some innovative ideas, something different.
And Ying, you had experience at J&J and Auris, as you said, and you came to join Ronovo as co-founder Ronovo. I was wondering, what opportunities did you see to sort of design a new approach to surgical robotics? Where did you sort of maybe see other approaches lacking, some of which really haven't gained a lot of traction? And what did you want to help create at Ronovo?
When I first got in touch with Ronovo Surgical, what resonated with me the most was the vision and the passion to really make robotic surgery accessible to everyone. This is a very different goal as what I have experienced with Auris. Obviously, with Auris, we have building one of the most top-notch systems in the world, potentially even offering better capability than the Da Vinci system. But at the end of the day, I think to me, what's most important is to really have patients access the technologies that we're building and help the patients getting better outcome through their exposure to the surgery or whatsoever. So with that thoughts in mind, I think to have a system that has the capability to really promote the system of the robotic surgery and have make it accessible to everyone, that is really a challenging goal. I think a lot of the systems worldwide are trying to tackle that problem, but so far there's still a lot of opportunities that we can explore. And particularly for the Chinese market, it's a pretty unique market. We have a very different surgeon population. We have a very different patient population. The disease profile is quite different. And our surgeons, many of them are already laparoscopic surgeons as compared to when Da Vinci entered the system. The doctors are primarily doing open surgery and only a very small portion of the surgeons are doing laparoscopic surgery. And how do we provide a system that really offer the capability and leverage the capabilities of these laparoscopic surgeons? These are things that we thought a lot at the beginning of the inception of the Carina system, and really offering a system having the capability to make robotic surgery accessible.
Well, let's talk about the Carina system and how it's different. I've seen the pictures, and it seems as if it's made, each arm has its own unit, as opposed to some of the others where the multiple arms extend from one. Is that the primary difference? And maybe I should, Ying, let you explain what the model is. But I thought it was very clever because it seems like you can wheel in 3, you can wheel in 4, depending upon what you need.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thought behind the Carina system is really to have a very flexible system and also at the same time very cost effective. When we say flexible, it's a modular system. We offer a flexible choice of instruments. We offer flexible choice of vision system. And all of these features that we put in the system have their implication on the clinical capability of the system and also on the economics. For example, if we make the system modular, then the surgeon will have better capability to position the arms around the surgical bed in hopes of reducing collision throughout the procedure. And this offers potential capability for laparoscopic surgeons to use their familiar port placement for their procedure, and also being able to do multi-quadrant procedures better, potentially. At the same time, you have modular system. We also made the system configurable. And this is what I believe we are the first to do this, because now when the system is configurable, when the hospital purchases the system, they have the flexibility to choose which modules they want for their hospital. For example, if the hospital has already invested in a minimally invasive operating room, they already have their vision system, they already have their instruments, they already have their ESU, for example. In that case, when they want to purchase a robotic system, they have the flexibility to choose, do I want to purchase a vision system together with my robot? How many parts do I want? What procedures I'm doing, right? If I'm primarily doing benign procedures that I only need 3 arms for a procedure, 1 scope, 2 instruments, then I can stick with a 3-arm system and reduce the cost to acquire the robotic system. And regarding instruments, we offer both 8 millimeter and 5 millimeter instruments. 8 millimeters are wristed, 5 millimeters are adapted from conventional laparoscopic instruments. And with those capabilities, then you will have the capability to choose the right balance for your patients. Do I need the accuracy and dexterity when I'm doing complex tasks like suturing? And for simple grasping tasks, then I can stick with a straight stick instruments. And the thought behind this is also the fact that the surgeon group that we're working with, they're already very familiar with laparoscopic surgeries. So they are very familiar with using the straight stick laparoscopic instruments. And that's why they can very quickly adapt to the system and also pick the right balance for the patients without losing much clinical outcome. With all these flexibilities built into the platform, we believe the hospital, the surgeon, and the patient will ultimately benefit from the system in that you have more flexibility in doing the surgery. You have more flexibility in choosing the right instruments and balance the economics to our patients. And for the patients, ultimately, you are getting better clinical outcome with the robotic technology, but at the same time, the economics is ensured because of the flexibility that we built into the system.
John, is this what you were looking for when you were looking for a robotic system to invest in, or is this what was in mind, or did this?
Absolutely. This is not by accident, and this is not the one dimension of advantage that it's from multiple angles. And what we were looking for at the beginning when we established company, we were very clear. We want to not only do radiology, but also we want to do general surgery. We want to do thoracic gynecology. We not only want to have the system do complex cases like hysterectomy, but also maybe chole, simple procedures. And we not only want to have a single quadrant access, but also we want to enable the surgeon with multiple quadrant access in order to do those specialties effectively. A simple example of that, Ying mentioned about arm collision. And we not only want to have a most senior surgeon to use the system, but also providing access to laparoscopic surgeons and to open surgeons and then junior surgeons that they can perhaps find the access to technology to very quickly accelerate their learning. And we're not only looking for a system that can only fit into a very large operating room, but also we want to have the system that can capable enter 33 square meter operating rooms in China and making more space for the entire operating teams. And those are the very important ingredients. And, you look at from market access, from hospital settings, from surgeon needs, from clinical outcomes, etc. They're closely connected with what Ying has described with the system features. And so this is not one parameter, one variable that try to be different, but this is a multiple angle of a consideration from technology to clinical application to potential addressable market.
Where are most of these procedures being done in China? Are they in a full-scale hospital with an operating room? In the U.S., we're seeing more surgery centers, more out of hospice. Where are procedures being done there?
Yeah, this is a great question. We always talk about addressable market, who are doing this. First, let me say this. Nobody is going to question China is a huge country with a lot of people. And we have a lot of volume procedures. 10 million, as I mentioned before, 10 million procedures coming from general surgery, thoracic, gynecology, urology. As I mentioned before, general surgery and the gynecology accounts to 95, 96% of that. And where they are performed in almost 10,000 hospitals. Imagine that number, 10,000 hospitals, primarily two different tiers. So we call tertiary and secondary hospital, who are qualified to perform minimum invasive surgeries. This is a huge number, 10,000 hospitals. How many operating rooms and how many surgeons are qualified to perform minimum invasive surgery? Those are laparoscopic surgeries, right? So there are roughly about 120,000 accredited surgeons who can do that. And there are roughly about 100,000 operating rooms who, on average, doing 5 to 6 surgeries a day from each operating room. So this is the volume that we're talking about. So coming back to your question, where these minimum invasive surgeries are performed, where they are robotically performed, this is exactly this company is founded, that we are not only providing solutions to the top tier, to the largest hospitals in the country that currently have a limited number of systems and a limited number of doctors or a limited number of specialties. We want to deliver the system to the second tier. Perhaps Coley is a predominantly the chunk of the volume they are doing. So that's why ease of access, ease of use, accessibility and cost effectiveness. So these all come into play that determine how we want our system to be. And those are the opportunities, not only the tertiary, but also secondary hospitals, county level hospital, if you want to draw a comparison in the US, are what we are aiming at. So that's why what Ying talked early on, that different procedures, different hospital requirement to require our system to be flexible, to be configurable. And this is no accident that we developed a modular system.
Interesting. I want to address the economics in a moment, but Ying, I'm curious, how do the different arms, the modular systems, do they work with one controller? How does a surgeon operate multiple arms if they're not part of the same system? How are they connected?
The surgeon operates these arms from the surgeon console. The teleoperation part is very similar to the rest of the surgical robotic system.
Okay.
And these modules can be connected together in a very flexible way throughout the preparation of the system for surgery. We offer the capability of connecting modules after module or module directly connected to our control tower, which we call integration hub. So the OR staff will have the flexibility and the ease of use for getting the system ready and prepare for surgery.
And you mentioned that they're able to use their own imaging systems or their own visualization systems. Do you offer one of your own, or are you agnostic as to what they have? You'll work with anything that they currently have?
We do. We do offer our own vision system. And our vision system is a 3D high definition system equipped with ICG technology that a lot of surgeons in China are asking for. Right now, only Da Vinci system has ICG capability on their robotic platform. And we are the first in China to offer that as well.
And if a hospital is using your modular systems, but not your imaging, do you have concerns about maybe it doesn't perform as well because their imaging is lower definition than yours, isn't as capable of yours? How do you account for, is there a bare minimum, I guess, for a visualization system or an imaging system that clients may have?
You're getting to a very important point because vision is extremely critical to the surgeon's performance in the surgery. For our system, we, of course, want to make sure a surgeon has that experience. Mm-hmm. And we made our system compatible to the top-of-line Storz and Olympus system so that the surgeon can use those systems that they're potentially already very familiar with. And sometimes surgeons are very sticky with one type of vision system once they're really getting used to it. So we are compatible with Storz and Olympus, and we offer our own endoscopes when the surgeon don't have access to those.
I have trouble using Teams. I'm a Zoom guy, so I can certainly understand not being able to use a different platform.
Exactly. Yeah.
John, what about the economics? There's been a lot of news lately about price controls on medical devices in China. What are the opportunities there for surgical robotic system? Where do you see the opportunity to build a market?
Yeah, first of all, there's no question, for the past 16 years, the market or the available commercially clinical available system are perhaps not optimum in the eyes of the surgeons and patients. And this is in two factors. One is the cost to acquire the system. The second is the cost to perform the procedures. Both are expensive. And this is why for the past 16 years, this is not covered by the state insurance in China. Patient would have to pay out of their own pocket. And this is one of the inhibitors for the technology to be broadly applied, in addition to some technology challenges that we have just discussed. Going forward, and China is going to be on a DRG. And if you look from a hospital acquisition perspective, I think what is most important for all the players, Ronovo included, is going to have to demonstrate clinical excellence. And that, all the things we have talked about, can we cover all specialties? Can we do complex and simple procedures, clinically and economically? And can we fit into a variety of different operating rooms in the country? Can we help young surgeons grow faster? And all of those important questions for the hospital to answer when they choose the system. So in my view, I think this helps a lot, the market moving from a single monopoly to many players with different options, different innovative ideas. And what matters the most are the clinical outcome. And we have to make sure, and that's why this company is so determined from day one of its inception that we have worked very closely with the clinicians, and from concept that as we have just discussed to where we are today, that we are conducting human clinical trials, that we have been working with Chinese clinicians, U.S. clinicians, leveraging everything that we can leverage in terms of their clinical experience in determining the system configuration, the features, and different options that we have just discussed. So we're very confident going forward, whichever the country region you are going to talk about. I think emphasis on the clinical outcome is going to be a huge differentiator for whoever enters the space.
What is your timeline for clinical trials in China and outside of China?
Yes, we are focusing on China market right now for a very simple reason, because there are so many procedures that we can convert robotically, and the 10 million, just to be precise, as we have just discussed. So we are going to start the human clinical trials on gynecology and urology first. Very quickly, we are moving towards a full specialty coverage that includes general surgery and the thoracic procedures. So this is where we are today. And we have received, by the way, you may know that, as you mentioned in the introduction, that we have for the past 12 months, there are a lot of talks and reports that very famous surgeons who have accessed our system give very complimentary remarks about our performance and also the validation of our design intent. So this is extremely encouraging, and I'm extremely proud of the team that we have in a very short 3 years to get where we are today, that we are clinical trial ready for specialty coverage.
And Ying, final question to sort of expand into other areas beyond the ones we've identified here today, but in the future as well. Is this the design that you can base those future expansions on, or will it require a different model entirely? I'm thinking of the Da Vinci is Intuitive's main, but now they have their Ion. They're building different systems to approach different parts of the body. Is that a model that you see Ronovo following, or is this sort of the base upon which you're going to move into different clinical specialties in the future, or is that not a question that you're ready to discuss yet?
I can say a little to that. Right now, Ronovo is focused on soft tissue surgery, and we're focused on that. But there's a lot going on with soft tissue surgery. And the beauty of a flexible platform and the modular system is that you can potentially develop new modules that offers different clinical capabilities and eventually offer a very different clinical application with your modular system. we are certainly considering expanding to other clinical applications beyond laparoscopic surgery, but we're still doing internal investigation at the moment.
Excellent. And John, final question is
Yeah.
about financing. You closed on a $50 million. Oh, you've raised $50 million. You've closed in a recent round. Was this your, I saw news of the Series A, and I saw news of this recent fundraising. Was this a Series B, or was there something in between? Can you give me a little bit more information about your fundraising history?
Sure. But I can add a little bit light on what Ying has just mentioned. Now I have made the transition from technology guy to a commercial guy. And well, whatever we are going to venture into, I think it's always going to solve clinical challenges. And China is a huge country. And the country is on a path, so determined to pursue early detection of a cancer and early intervention. Two very large areas of that. You mentioned the one product from Intuitive Surgical is exactly that, for lung cancer, early detection and early intervention. And there are other disease profiles we have discussed early on, and that will, take a priority, not just lung, but also, for example, colorectal area, upper digestive area. Those are important areas that present a lot of opportunities, can really help the industry. And so that's what I would like to add, from clinical and the commercial considerations. In terms of fundraising, first of all, let me say that we are extremely capital efficient company. And thanks to our experience, people like Ying and I who worked in large and small, startup and mature companies before in our career. So we know how to set up a team, set up the structure, prioritize our work, and are very focused on what we do. So this is something that all of the investors are very happy to see, in addition to credibility of a delivery. So the history of fundraising, that as you can see, that we totally raised $50+ million and utilized 3 years, in a short time, by the way, from assessing the market clinical needs and to concept, to developing engineering prototype, to going through all of the animal trials, leading to where we are today in terms of a human clinical trial. Very capital efficient, very focused, and tremendous credibility for all of the investors. Our investors, including Lily Asia Ventures, you have mentioned before, also Vivo Capital, Matrix, Long River, GGV. These are our current shareholders. And now as we entered into human clinical trial, now we have kind of out of the stealth mode that, we are very visible now, and our intention are very clear. I'm always a believer that China is a huge market and our system is the right fit for that market. But however, disease is a disease. It doesn't differentiate from one region to the other. The disease demographics may be different. So therefore, I think the team that you are seeing today has tremendous international experiences. And our R&D engineers coming from a variety of background, but very solid experience in robotics, in medical device. And this is not their first time of designing surgical robotics in their career. So these are all very important, setting the stage for where we are heading and what are the capital we are looking to raise in support of that. So our priority is going to be for the next 12, 24 months. We are that focused on clinical trials and introduced to the China market. And we are exploring very seriously that because of the system, that the capability it can solve all the problems that we have just discussed, that the international aspiration as well.
Do you think international reach would be something you would do on your own, or would you be open to exploring partnerships with larger players like CMR and J&J had a deal? We are very open. I think, as a company who knows well domestic international market, you always try to find the most efficient way to get your solution to the hands of the customers. And you don't want to necessarily do everything in your own. And so we are always open to collaborations, whether this is commercial, clinical, or R&D. So that we have been very effectively doing that, actually. So this is a part of the reason that the team can move so quickly and efficiently in the past 3 years. Excellent. Well, it's an exciting space, and you're making it more exciting. So I appreciate your sharing your story and joining us on the podcast today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Chris Newmarker, let's wrap up this episode. Where can folks find you on social media?
Hey, you can find me on LinkedIn, Chris Newmarker, just like a Newmark.
Absolutely. And I am on LinkedIn, Tom, Salemi. I'm on Twitter, sort of at MedTechTom. Please do us a favor and share this episode of the Device Talks Weekly podcast on those social media networks that you use, and make sure you connect with Chris and I so we can be part of that conversation. And what else would we like people to do, Chris?
You got to like, follow, subscribe.
Absolutely. Like, follow, and or subscribe to the Device Talks Podcast Network or the Medtronic Talks Network. If you connect with both, and there
Exactly.
are two different channels. You'll get, with the Device Talks Podcast Network, you'll get this podcast, Stryker Talks, Intuitive Talks. Boston Scientific Talks is coming out next week.
All right.
And we're going to be releasing Abbott Talks a little later in the year, probably in June. So
awesome.
Lots of great content coming that way. And Medtronic has their own channel, and subscribe to Medtronic Talks, and you'll get past and future episodes of Medtronic Talks sent directly to you. So lots of information and insights sent directly to your phone. You can listen to it through your little Bluetooth earphones. It's all right there. It gets directly to your brain. It'll do some good. You'll be better. You'll be smarter, and you'll make better medical devices. Right?
A smorgasbord of medtech information.
If I could spell that, I would probably put it in our marketing. But I don't want to make my spell check go kablooey. But that's it. And of course, please join us at Device Talks Boston. That's happening May 10th and 11th. We're going to have a lot of these companies that we're talking about: Zimmer, ZimV, Abbott, Boston Scientific, Medtronic. We will have BD. We will have, I think I said Boston Scientific. So make sure you join us at Device Talks Boston, which is happening May 10th and 11th at the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center. Go to devicetalks.com to register for that and to find all these great podcasts and Device Talks Tuesdays as well. So much going on.
I can't believe Device Talks Boston is like a month and a half away. Just wild. Sorry, Tom.
I'm going to go listen to my white noise machine again. All right, Newmarker. I'm going to go calm myself down.
Have a nice cup of tea.
Exactly. A little biscuits and tea, and just listen to my waves rushing up against the shore on my iPad.
And pretend you're on the English coast or something.
I'll probably see a World War II German airplane coming my way in my dreams now. Now that you've got this in my head. All right, everybody. Thanks for...
I just mentioned English coast, and you think like, oh,
this is where I'm at. I'm under siege. I'm Dunkirk. I am under siege.
We have you surrounded.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Device Talks Weekly podcast.
Hey, everybody. Spring is on the way.